Inside the rise of Neartus Dadbe, better known as Star Wars Theory, the largest fan-run Star Wars channel on YouTube, with nearing 3.5 million subscribers, over 3,500 videos, and nearly 1.5 billion views. I wish. His journey it's more than collecting subscribers though, okay? It's what modern fandom can create, and the limitless potential of fan art. And the real question, who does Star Wars truly belong to? Who do any of the great properties really belong to? Now, just pause for a sec. This might read like a bit of a puff piece or a clout shout, like I'm in love with the guy, but that's not what this is, okay? There's something so important here, so do excuse the positivity for a bit. I know some people have their own opinions, and I guess a guy this well known isn't going to please everyone on every issue, okay? But there's a lesson we can all learn from his story, and potentially one of the greatest cultural revolutions in living memory happening right now is exemplified by this guy's journey. So, take a walk with me down this road. As a young boy, Neartus first heard about Star Wars from his parents. At 6 years old, his dad showed him Star Wars on VHS. He was transfixed. Love at first sight. Very much the same as with me. More than just some story a dad tells his son, or a movie a dad shows his son. This is a cultural mythology being handed down from one generation to the next. And I'm not overstating that. Trust me, you'll see. And when he finally watched Star Wars, it wasn't just a movie, it was a mirror, even a prophecy of his future. Like Luke Skywalker's iconic moment gazing at the twin suns, not knowing where he belonged, Theory felt the same. The world was vast, the future uncertain, and the desire to find his place in it was real. And I bet that sounds familiar to you on some level, right? With Neartus, that connection would shape the rest of his life. In his teenage years, he could relate with Anakin. He was just 9 years old when he saw episode 1, slap bang in the middle of the demographic there. It's like it was made for him. And Anakin's emotions, powerful yet dangerous, they reflected the turbulence of adolescence. For Theory and many others. Like Anakin, he learned that strength without control can lead to your own downfall. Offline, Star Wars made him feel like an outsider, as it did for many of us, geeks and nerds and all of that. But online forums gave him a first taste of community, a place to debate and imagine and even meet lifelong friends. When times would get tough, he would think, what would Luke Skywalker do? As I did. Star Wars it gave him a safe haven, keeping him out of trouble. He credits much of his development as a young man to how George Lucas wrote Luke and Anakin. The saga taught him to be careful who you trust, the importance of a father figure, and the strength of having a role model who stands as a pillar in your life. And before YouTube, Neartus did it all. Retail, handing out flyers, real estate. He even dreamed of VFX at Lucasfilm or robotics at NASA. But none of it matched the passion that Star Wars gave him. In 2016, he recorded a Snoke theory on his phone with no intention of starting a career from it. He forgot about it, but a few weeks later it blew up. From zero to a movement in just one move. What caught his attention most were the comments, fans talking back. It reminded him of those early forums where he first found belonging. So, quick reminder by the way, please get in the comments. Yay! The name Star Wars Theory came simply. It's a theory about Star Wars, so Star Wars Theory. His channel grew from 0 to 1 million subscribers in about a year. I wish. But for the first 2 years, he didn't show his face at all, finally revealing it without knowing how fans would respond. Turns out they responded well. He's acknowledged by many as one of the most knowledgeable Star Wars voices out there, when it comes to the 6 movies, certainly. And yes, there are other lore masters regarding the comics and the books, and the expanded universe like Theory, but I would say his true strength has always been in the films and the characters in the films. And we're still waiting for his debate with Matt Walsh, who definitely needed someone to explain the overall genius of Star Wars and just what a good movie looks like, you know, not just nitpick critiques, which Walsh seemed to be doing there. But what has forged Theory's strength and passion over the years have been the comments and the live streams and the hangouts that he's done for nearly a decade. And it's a visible amount of effort that he's invested into these things. If he didn't put in the work, then the channel just wouldn't grow, and it has grown. The videos wouldn't get made, but they have. The fan films wouldn't get made, and they have. More on that in a bit. In the early years, he pushed so hard he barely slept. At one point, he said he hallucinated a pirate ship sailing out of the wall. My dad used to be an exorcist, so I would get phone calls in the middle of the night about that kind of thing, but for a completely different reason. His Vader series is his most ambitious project, a cinematic fan film created entirely outside the studio system and yet at studio quality. Episode 2 is already looking fantastic, and Episode 3 set for release in 2026. I can't wait. When it arrives, the world will see in undeniable clarity what fans are capable of creating when labour and passion collide. Beyond videos, he's now launched Theory Sabers, with the stated aim of crafting high-quality lightsabers so that cost wouldn't be a barrier for fans. And like many of you and me, the very first time he saw a lightsaber, he was captivated. So from a saber-obsessed kid scouring forums to a maker of legacy, custom and exclusive lightsaber hilts, he brought his childhood dreams to life. Wouldn't you like to do the same? In later years, Star Wars Theory has had his share of controversies, of course, as we all have around the increasing behind-the-scenes politics infesting Hollywood these days. But he is still a beloved brother in the fandom, and a very generous and caring one, and I know this from experience. When I first started on YouTube, I asked his permission to feature part of his story, alongside others, in a video essay that I did. And despite being by far the biggest YouTuber I reached out to, he was the most responsive, he was the most positive, and once I'd published, he was by far the most supportive. He gave a shout out, which I never asked for, and it got me my first ever 1,000 view video. I attribute that to Star Wars Theory being so supportive. He also gives sabers away to long-time fans of his channel. He's inspired other fans to venture into their own fan-owned adventures and has supported them in doing that. And I'm not saying this to crawl up the guy's backside, I'm not doing that. But honestly, if more people were like this, the community would be stronger. With more fans realizing the power they have to create, to contribute. Recently, he started making fewer lore videos, instead traveling for Theory Sabers and attending things like Comic-Con, where George Lucas himself was present. He's drafting his own book as a universe of magic, aliens and dark power, building a mythos of his own. And when you look without bias, for or against, just put your own feelings to the side. However you look at it, Star Wars Theory stands for what mythos are about. Stories that belong to the people. He embodies what fans can create despite resistance and challenges. In a galaxy where the lines between corporate ownership and cultural heritage blur, Star Wars Theory reminds us the mythos should belong to us all. Neotus proves what fans can do when they stop waiting for permission. In a world where boardrooms rewrite our myths, he reminds us the story belongs to the people. Star Wars legal rights belongs to the corporates, sure, but the heart of it, the heart of the stories, the connections people feel towards the characters, they do not. That's the fight Ex Uno takes forward. To refuse the idea that stories belong to corporations. To reclaim myth as something alive, shaped by the people who love it. To build a universe where fans are not just spectators, but myth makers, crafting, protecting and carrying forward the tales that matter. I am a fan of military sci-fi with a relentless passion. The scale of starfleets clashing, the discipline of soldiers in impossible wars, the weight of sacrifice and survival, and basically just things blowing up in space. I'm all about that. And so I'm building a new sci-fi in that mold. I've been doing it for a very long time now, but I'm not building it alone. And I'm inviting you to become part of it as a creator, to take part with full ownership. Star Wars Theory proves it can be done. He took a childhood obsession, VHS tape, and a single video on his phone and built a movement of millions. He showed that one fan with relentless passion could rival the output of an empire. Ex Uno is the next step in that same rebellion. It's not about waiting for permission. It's not about asking studios for crumbs. It's about creating something together. A mythos that belongs to us all. Uncorrupted and unowned by the suits. That's the fight. That's the future. That's Ex Uno. From one to many. So give me your thoughts, give me your ideas, comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, you cheeky person. Check out the live streams where we're going to be workshopping what it looks like to build a brand new mythology with you as a creator. I hope to see you again soon. and thank you so much for listening.